Good evening. Thank you for joining us. The results are in for a referendum survey in Appleton as the school district looks to address a $13 million budget deficit.
Data released from the survey by the district today shows significant community support. Nearly 7,500 people responded to this survey, 68% indicating they would vote for the funding that would clear the $13 million deficit, and almost 60% say they would also approve an additional $2 million to help fund anticipated inflation. Drew Best spoke with community members about which amount they hope the district pursues in this First Alert update.
Through consolidation, staff cuts, and changes to employee benefits, the Appleton Area School District has given up a lot in recent years, but they still face a multi-million-dollar budget deficit. They are hoping to get the community support through a spring referendum to prevent any further downsizing.
We're constantly looking at how to reduce expenses because we don't control our revenue. The state controls the amount of revenue that we get.
Based on survey results, the school board is expected to choose between a $13 or $15 million referendum for 4 years. Despite the expected support, concerns are rising after property taxes jumped by over 8% across the community, part of one of the largest statewide increases in more than 3 decades.
They built an elementary school. I think they added on to every single middle school. I mean, they've did a lot of additions, and people now they need it for the operating budget. I have to live within a budget. Our family's living in a budget. They need to live in a budget.
We increase taxes by 8%, which is about the average in the state. When people are seeing 20 or 30% increases, it's because the value of their property increased at a rate higher than other properties. We don't control any of that.
If the school board decides to ask for $15 million, property owners would see an increase of about $75 per year per $200,000 of property. The $13 million option would only see a roughly $45 increase. The school board is expected to vote on which amount they plan to put on the spring ballot at their next meeting on January 12th. Reporting in Appleton, Drew Best, Action 2 News.